Hello, I'm Tactical Pascale. Welcome to the channel. I hope this finds you all safe and well. In this video, I'm going to be interviewing Clarke, the technical lead artist on the South Atlantic map, Ripper, or John, one of the testers, and the man himself, Ron Zambrano, the owner of RAZBAM, and we're going to discuss the South Atlantic map for DCS World. The footage you can see in the background is me flying around the Falklands map. We're going to be discussing a lot of aspects of that map, as well as a few more things coming from RAZBAM in the coming few months. I'm also going to include later on a list of all the assets that are also being worked on for the map itself. So with that, let's get cracking into the interview audio. Now, it was recorded with Azza from Tactical DCS as well, so there's a couple of us there asking some questions and trying to get as much information as we can so that you guys are all going to know what's coming from this absolutely spectacular map. I mean, obviously we told some of the guys that obviously we spoke to Clarke and said, like, can we tell the guys we're going to do the interview and stuff? And they got all excited about it, so we asked a few of the guys what questions they'd like to ask as well. So for me, straight away, the first thing is, why the South Atlantic, and more specifically, the Falklands location? So why did RAZBAM choose that as their first terrain for DCS?
Well, I can answer that,
Ron, or you answer on that?
Yeah, I can answer that. Well, it could be a mixed answer here. When I approach ED for creating a new map, you have to actually see what's available, because they also have their own map terrain development team, right?
Yeah.
So we also wanted something that could get people their feet wet and do something up to the quality that is needed. So I gave them a series of possible terrains to develop, and they say, well, they actually were thinking of. They proposed me to create something about the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
But it was not really what I was into. So I said, okay, what's the next big thing that everybody talks about, and happens to be the Falklands conflict? I mean, it was like, what, 32 years ago, something like that. No, 35 years ago. Anyway, my math are bad right now, sorry. So anyway, it was decided, so I go to Clarke, and Clarke say, well, let's go do it. So I think Clarke could go from here.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the primary reasons why we kind of chose the Falklands map, and initially, it was only going to be the Falklands Islands themselves, with the sea around it and stuff.
Yeah.
Was simply because it's ED's take on it was basically if we went with just an island surrounded by water, that would be easier to get used to the terrain development kit and sort of process it at a reasonable pace.
Yeah.
But very quickly, the community voiced their opinion, and it sort of stretched and stretched and stretched. And at the moment, we've got pretty much 1.5 million kilometers.
That's amazing.
Which I think, don't quote me on this, but I think that's the largest area in DCS so far.
That's mega. I mean, and a lot of people will say a lot of that's obviously ocean, because I mean, it has to be though from where the Falklands is, but it answers one of the questions it was going to be, how big is the map itself, but it also raises the thing, I mean, as your first terrain, what's been the biggest challenge you've had creating it from scratch? Obviously, you spoke there about the development tool, so what's been your biggest challenge, and why did you include to extend it off to the west like you have?
I think the biggest challenge for me was initially in the very early days was getting to grips with the tool, because obviously the ED are Russian based and their documentation is all in Russian and stuff. So it was kind of the translation between the Russian and the English kind of lost a little bit, and that I think that was the biggest challenge for me anyway.
Yeah.
And the reason why we extended it, we tried to push the boundaries, and essentially the area that I wanted initially, we were told, we weren't given a sort of you can only go to a maximum of this kilometer. We kind of tried to push it, and then we found that it wasn't working, and then ED did some tweaks to their TDK, and various improvements over the 2 years that we've been working on the map. And currently, as I said, we've got 1.5 million kilometers, and that includes just above, probably about 50 miles above Rio Gallegos, 100 miles above Rio Gallegos, and that includes all of the lower. So all of the lower of Chile, all the mountains, all of the glaciers. It's considerable.
I'm supposed to react here with shock and go, wow, but I mean, like you said, when you brought Asa, myself, and a couple of others on board, we've seen it all, and it does look fantastic. Obviously, there's bits that you've worked on more than others so far, but it does look fantastic. I can't wait for the full release. Speaking of which, how long has it taken you from getting the approval to do it to actually the stage we're at now with the map?
Probably about 2 years. 2 years. I mean, initially I was essentially working on my own, because that's kind of the pipeline that we decided to go down. And it's kind of it's an absolutely massive learning curve. Because you're dealing with technology that you haven't dealt with before, and just have a basic understanding of, I'm told to do this, but why am I told to do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then, if you have a problem, then you can apply. That's why I did that. I need to do this because of this error, kind of thing, and that's one of the challenges as well. So
a continual learning process as you're going through the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, ED are developing their tools all the time. They're making some great stuff. And I think it can only get better. It really can only get better, especially for us as developers and also the DCS community for the end product.
Yeah, definitely. So with obviously the 2 year sort of initial process that you've had so far, how long is it going to be before we see community release? Do you have a rough time frame of when we'll see it released to the public?
I'm hoping it's going to be this year. Hoping it's going to be this year.
I was just trying to look at Ron's face to see if he'd react there when you said this year. Ron's a great poker player, I'm telling you that.
I mean, we have got a couple of the ED guys, testing the map as well, and they absolutely love it. Some of them have actually served in the Falklands, so they really do love it. It's something that is different. It's different.
That's the first thing I've done. As soon as obviously get access to the map to help test and find bugs, I went, right, I'm going to get a Huey, I'm going to take off, and I'm going to look for my accommodation from when I served there. But that's going to tie in with the next question, because what time frame is the map being set in and why? And hopefully that last little clue, because I'm not that old, so hopefully the last little clue will tell people the time period that it's set in.
I think it's a bit of a sore point, that time frame period. It's kind of a mixture, simply because if I based it on the conflict, I would be done. I would sell a field, essentially. There was maybe 1,000 houses across the whole island.
Yeah.
Port Stanley Airfield was not long enough for the F-18, the F-14, the various other aircraft. You couldn't take off, you couldn't land. You would be ship based, so it's very restrictive. So we took the decision early on to create MPA. Now, people don't have to use MPA. It's there.
Yeah.
But we are hopefully planning to release 2 versions of the map. One with Stanley, how it is now, and the other one with the same, but with MPA removed, for those hardcore fans who want to reenact the conflict.
That's fantastic. I should, of course, say, obviously we refer to the Falklands. There are people around the world that will refer to it as a Malvinas, but I'm British, so I'm going to call it the Falklands. That is interesting to see that you're thinking about the 2 versions, because that does lend itself. Because when I posted, obviously got your permission to put out the thumbnail saying I was going to do this interview, and some of the comments I got were people saying, well, what's the point in the Falklands? There was only the UK and Argentina. No one really cares about it. It's going to be a dud and things like that. But I don't think they quite realise the sort of scenarios that could be created on this map. So when you decided you were going to do this, what sort of scenarios had you got in mind for the community to create? And are you thinking about working on a specific Falklands campaign to be released with it or shortly after it?
I'll answer the first question. I'll let Ron answer the campaign one. To me, a map is a map. I shouldn't really, it's not based. It's down to the individual mission creators to embellish something that is going to intrigue and excite people. Yeah. It's not about I need to, for me anyway. It's not about I need to reenact this war and this plane flew from this place to this place. You know what I mean? It's kind of, we're all here. It's a simulator. We jump on. We all have fun together. That's the whole purpose of the map, and it's a different place. There's different scenery. There's different places to visit. There's different things to see. Different places to hide. So for me, that's what it's all about.
Well, yeah. Regarding the campaign, as you know, Falklands currently, Falklands for most of the world, Malvinas for Argentina and part of Latin America. It's still a contested piece of territory down south in the Atlantic, right?
Yeah.
And there is a number of factors that have happened in real life, like they just discover more oil around under its waters, and also there is exclusive zone for fishing from Argentina, and there are a number of key players that could happen, something that probably would never happen in real life, but you could use as a campaign, fictional campaign. So there's a lot of things that could go around, and you have to keep in mind the actual logistics of making a conflict within a continent and this island. I mean, if you are going for the Argentine side or whatever side you choose to make using the Argentina mainland, you have to keep in mind you have to cross part of the ocean to get to your target. So you have to do a lot of fuel management. That also means air-to-air refueling. Also means there's quite enough ocean to have, aircraft carrier action, hunt submarines. I mean, it's a big playground. Something different. I mean, right now we're used to be hunting stuff in the desert, right?
Yeah.
We have Syria, we have Persian Gulf, we have and we have Caucasus, we have Nevada. But this gives you a whole new scope of things to try. I mean, you can actually, it's so big for DCS standards, you can actually hide two fleets. The antagonist fighting over a piece of land that maybe nobody cares, but in the whole aspect of a simulator, or let's say a game,
Yeah.
you can have action within it, either going the historical way, or either going a totally fictional way, or even going a fantasy way. There's a lot of things to do there. Or what's going on when you're flying one of these planes for real. But if pilot gets behind the cockpit, they have to think about his fuel, how much weight he has. Is he gonna reach a target? What about if he cannot what about if he doesn't get with the tanker? All this stuff you can actually put to test here in the Falklands, because if you go down on the sea.
When I was flying there, I'd had the weather was nice and sunny, so I could see everything. But then I went, it doesn't feel like the Falklands, because having been down there for like 5.5 months of my life, I went, right, I need to lower the cloud base, I need to get the wind on, I need to get the rain on. And flying in a Huey around the Falklands with the wind and the rain and everything just felt like you were there, because you look down at the terrain and you think, it looks like the Falklands. It looks like what you used to fly to the mountain sites. It feels cold, and I know you don't feel cold when you're in your chair in your living room, but it's a different experience from any other map I've seen in DCS so far, and I'm certainly enjoying it. I don't know about you, Asa, what do you think so far?
Well, I love it so far. Absolutely, it's a hard map to test a lot of the time because you'll be the same as me, mate. We go in with I've got an objective. I'm going to check the coastlines, or I'm going to look for performance drops, and then it's been 2 hours later, and I've just been flying around looking at how pretty it is, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm actually here to do a job, and have to go back and start again, and do the thing I had planned to do in the first place. But sort of circling back to when we spoke about how big the map is, I don't think the majority of the public understand how big this map is. Particularly, even the non-Falklands part, the size of the Chile and Argentina part, if you get bored of the two Falklands Islands, there is an entire area, there is an absolute plethora of missions, campaigns, things you could generate just in that part of the map. You've got forests, jungles, you've got mountains. There's a million different scenarios you can run just in that alone, discounting the Falklands. So I think the replayability is going to be absolutely massive.
Yeah, just on that note, the largest lake in which is my favourite lake is 102 kilometres long.
That's ridiculous.
Just to give you, and that's probably a third of, probably about a third of the width.
Just imagine trying to replicate Mikado.
Yeah.
Speaking of going back to what we said earlier about the possibility, obviously, you're trying to look at having two sort of time zones. So having the sort of the 80s conflict and having the modern day, obviously, so we can use modern airframes on the airfield. With the whole 80s scenario, we know that obviously you're working on the Pucara, the FRS-1 and the Super E's and stuff like that. Are you going to work on any naval assets, like maybe the Belgrano or the 25 de Mayo, anything like that?
Yeah, we've got an assets pack coming. We've got a considerable list of ships and various stuff to do. So at this point, I'd like to pass you over to John, who's one of my other testers / vector data editor. So he can answer the asset questions.
Excellent.
Hi guys.
Hi, how you doing, John?
Yeah, fine, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, good, thanks, pal.
One of the things that I'd like to add is I'm in a very privileged position, thanks to Ron and Clarke, to be not only part of the terrain development team, but I also get to see, and I'm very privileged to see, all the hard work that goes in from a third-party developer, as well as being included in that process. And something that was definitely new to me, my background, served in the Royal Navy for 16 years.
Yeah.
Spent a considerable amount of time in the Falklands. I was posted on one of the ships that was down there, the Dumbarton Castle. And that's why Clarke asked us to shed a little bit of light onto the naval aspect, stuff like that.
Excellent.
And one thing that I said to Clarke I've been in it probably about 8 months, the fidelity and the actual realism that strikes you, obviously because you've been there.
Yeah.
One thing about this area of the country is it is absolutely beautiful. It is really stunning. It's not something that we've seen in DCS before. And the thing that I like about Clarke is he always pushes the boundary. He's never happy with second best.
Yeah.
And
we know
he
from
is,
the post boxes.
and we're lucky because we've got the backing of Ron, who's very, very supportive. If we ask questions we can't get answers, Ron just fires them straight in there and go on to sort of lead level.
Brilliant.
And it's really refreshing. And it's one of the things that I've been a great fan of RAZBAM back to the FSX days with the Harrier. And I met Clarke and Ron totally by accident. It was just one of them things. And the community, and in a general, they don't realise how much work. I didn't. I thought it was a case of drag and drop. Oh, we're going to create a map. We'll use these. We've just got this big pack and things gets placed.
Yeah.
Speaking from experience, that is not the process, as Ron and Clarke well know. And as you well know, you hear it all the time. Well, when's the module going to be released? 2 weeks. That's the standard concept.
Always 2 weeks.
I'll give you an example. The new bit of course that we're working on, and we've included, at the moment, there's something in the region of 55,000 errors just in the coastline. Now, I've been working on that today, and I've took it down to about 52,000. But one thing that I do like about the way they've approached this is, as we all know, I've got all the areas for DCS. One thing I do like about the Falklands is Clarke and Ron are not happy with just another product.
Yeah.
What they're doing here is they're pushing the capability of the current TDK to the max. And I know that for a fact because we're constantly on the phone. I know Clarke spends a considerable amount of time with the developers asking for features, asking, is there anything we can improve it for other developers? So they're making massive changes to the DCS, and it's all for the good thing. And all I can say is this map will considerably blow your mind when you see it. I wanted to get involved for the shipping side because, as you well know, we've got ships in DCS, bit one-sided at the moment. It's either Russian, American. So I said to Clarke, well, I want some Royal Navy assets in there, as you do.
Flying the flag down.
Yeah, and it really is. It's phenomenal. It's very, very accurate. And I think that's one good thing about Ron and Clarke. They strive for that. They don't want second best. They want this. They want people to see it, and they want it just like it did to me, to take your breath away.
Yeah.
And one thing for me is I wanted to get involved in sort of the naval side, the Falklands, because I've got a very, very affinity for that area. But it's things like just like Ron said about the refueling stuff, getting into the combined arms, literally using that product as well. We're trying to link it to all the original products into one shell where you can have a truly multiplayer experience. Because if people haven't experienced that, then that's what takes DCS to the next level.
Yeah, a couple of statistics for you. So I just before the call, I just pulled some statistics together, reference textures that I've created. So we've created in the region of about 110 custom textures for the map.
Yeah.
So far, there's 197 models. So processing stuff, just a couple of statistics as well. Just on the Rio Gallegos side, sort of Argentina/Chile, there are 6,862 lakes. There are 66,319 lakes. And the 6,862 is the rivers.
Yeah.
So they've all got to be, modified, adjusted, so they look correct.
Yeah, I mean, people often complain about a developer taking so long to get a module ready or to get something done, but obviously you've been at this for 2 years, and I think what you've just said there reinforces the fact that it takes time to make something that people are really going to enjoy and not fly and think, well, this is average, because you yourselves want to make something amazing because you want the community to think this is amazing. And obviously with Azza and I having access to it to have a look around, it's already blowing our minds, and you're not finished yet.
Yeah,
it is a phenomenal. I mean, the textures in some of the areas. I mean, I said to Azza, as soon as we got it, went to Mare Harbour, and I was looking down at the pebbles, and there's a little bit of the pebbles in the footage that will show, and it's just it's the weirdest thing, because you think that looks like a real texture. It's not a DCS texture. This is a different game you're looking down at, and compared to other things, it looks and feels entirely different from any other map we've had.
I mean, just to give you a sort of insight, so with a large city, there is no way in hell that you can model every house. So essentially, what you do, you choose so many blocks, and a block could be like something that's surrounded by 4 roads, essentially, and you would go and pick your blocks and interesting stuff, and then you would distribute them across the map in various locations. So say for instance you've got 9 blocks ish, and you rotate them so everything doesn't look the same and it all blends in nicely. But I've gone down to the part where I go into Google Maps Street View, and I'll go down and look at the block, and I'll say, oh, that's the type of fence. I haven't got that one. I'll make that. Or, oh, I haven't got that lamppost. I need to make that. Or, oh, there's a light there. That looks good. I'll have that.
Yeah.
And it's stuff like that, which, because I'm primarily a helicopter guy, and when you're flying along, you just to have that extra detail that what was that? Oh, I'll just go and have a look at that sort of thing, So that to me spurs my interest, really.
That's a lot of the same as I said earlier, when he first got it, he flew around for hours just looking, because it is little things like that. Like you fly over the map, think I'm in the Falklands, and you go, right, let's have a little bit of a closer look. And of course, you've asked us to do, like, can we spot any things that are wrong or anything that looks a bit weird? But we're too busy looking. We're in the Falklands. This looks amazing. It's such a great thing.
Yeah, don't say that, because if there's anything wrong, we'll get the blame. So don't say that.
I don't mind. It's the Falklands. I love it. With the development of, obviously, you've got the whole terrain thing takes you so much longer, because this is brand new for RAZBAM. It's your first terrain in DCS. Is it like less of a time frame? If you look, obviously you've got the AV8B that's out. Obviously, it's very similar in initial systems to the FRS-1, because they're both Harriers. Obviously, the FRS-1 is a much older, and I'd argue better, because I love the FRS-1 Harrier. Is there much carry-on from the technology you use for the AV8B? Is it easier to develop the FRS-1, or do you have to start from scratch for that as an asset for the map?
I'll let Ron answer that one.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
I think there was some echo sound, and I don't know what happened.
Yeah, it's kind of. I think it's just using the webcam mic. It's not a problem. It's fine. We can make you out. I just thought, you're wearing that nice fancy headset. I wonder if it's working all right. Right. Okay. It's fine. We can hear you, mate. Don't worry about it.
Okay. The AVAB, when we started developing it, we basically everything was new.
Yeah.
Okay. So there was no F-18 Hornet back then. There was no Viper back then. Basically, DCS was steam gauges aircraft, right?
Yeah.
So the technology was there. We were just creating into it, and it was like a very steep road to get the AVAB to where it is right now, because a lot of stuff have to be developed from zero.
Yeah.
Developing the FRS-1 is totally different, because it's completely different aircraft.
Yeah.
They might look similar, but they're definitely not the same thing. They don't even fly it the same way. The 3D mesh is completely new mesh, obviously.
Uh-huh.
And what we have learned currently, developing the Mirage, developing the AVAB, developing the MiG-19, what we are developing right now, not the map, but an aircraft right now, and the way we are preparing stuff to put out into the simulator as a early access model, or whatever name you want to do. I think that it will be faster to develop than anything before.
Uh-huh.
But there is a bit of a problem in some parts of the information regarding the plane, because it's still pretty much classified.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That
The
surprised me,
radar
because
stuff it's classified, and while not top secret, you cannot get access to it. You have to knock some doors. So The other thing is that right now the Air Force One is not a top priority.
Yeah.
What we do rather than we create aircraft, we have a production line. So when you see pictures in my Facebook page, Discord, or Twitter of 3D images, it's because those are in the first stage of the production line.
Yeah.
What we have right now in the up to be ready production line, that's not gets involved with what I'm showing that it's not being announced,
Yeah.
right? So the Air Force One, the Sea Harrier should be like third in the line after the priority ones. You know which one they are. You know, it's the A-15E Monthan, the MiG-23, and the A-29B Super Tucano.
Yeah.
Those are right now in the final production line. It's our efforts aircraft-wise are there. 3D work, coding, and at the same time working in their code in the code of their aircraft, Mirage, Mirage, AVAB, MiG-19. But I think once either the Mudham or the MiG-23 comes out, or one gets into that space, and start reworking. But I think that, well, in fact, I hope the Sea Harrier won't take us more than a year.
Yeah.
It's the little details that actually takes time. I mean, 3D work is 3D work. You can make creating an aircraft for an aircraft 3D mesh is completely different to what Clarke is doing. Clarke and team is doing. I would say it's probably faster and probably easier, probably. But when you put a plane into DCS, what you see is just the top of the surface of all the stuff that goes behind, under the skin of each plane you see. You have to make collision models, damage models, different LODs, and a lot of materials to go into it, and that takes a lot of time. You want to do it right.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to get back to it. And at the same time, this is real. At the same time, we have to revisit what has been done before. So we have to redo stuff to keep current. We cannot leave things to get old, because it will not just will as DCS as a world product or simulator, it's always evolving. Well, it looked good 3 years ago, will not look good now with a new engine, with new characteristics of the sim. So we still have to revisit that as well. So it's 2 steps forward, 1 step behind.
Yeah.
It's always like that.
I mean, it's fascinating again to see how much detail that goes into everything, and obviously you've got like you said, there a production line of the aircraft you're bringing and stuff, and obviously what Clarke's doing with terrain is an entirely new thing for RAZBAM, I think, for terrain wise certainly.
Well, I come from the Microsoft Flight Simulator community.
Yeah.
From 2002. Back then it was FS8, sorry, and Commodore Flight Simulator 2. I was a one-man band, but you know what? You could do that back then.
Yeah.
Now you can't. Simply can't, because it's so complex. I mean, people just see a 3D mesh. People just see amazing textures. Yeah, great, that's good. That's the surface.
Yeah.
A lot of things you got to do to make that thing work right. Not to mention that most of the stuff is used by actual pilots. The Mirage is being used by the French Air Force. I cannot comment on the Harrier. Sorry, on the VAB.
Yeah.
Well, the MiG-19 is actually face up, but we have a lot of eyes watching what we're doing. We have to do it correctly.
Yeah.
I mean, if we have such a strong simulator engine like DCS that allows you to do a lot of stuff you currently can do in any other simulator, and you couldn't do it before, you have to exploit all that possibilities into any product you come out, and do the best you can, and that takes time. Of course, we are used now to take flat. people say a lot of stuff about us. I don't even want to get into that. But that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, it's about part of the development. The size of the community, and obviously the demands of certainly the DCS community. There are people who will appreciate and understand, but there are people who will think 2 weeks. Why is it not 2 weeks? Because they think the 2 weeks, that became a standing joke. Obviously, years ago from Eagle Dynamics was a 2 weeks thing. That sort of permeates everyone, but people just expect everything to happen because they look at like a huge games developer. Let's talk, for example, EA Games. Things happen quickly, but a smaller developer doing something with very small people, I think they struggle to understand how long this takes. And Clarke, you said obviously it's yourself working on that map from scratch on new tech, and it's been 2 years already. I mean, like I said earlier, we've saw it and it looks amazing. What do you want to take, or what do you want to, when you release it, what do you want to have the community experience from being the guy who's built the map from literally the ground up? What do you want the community to say about the map compared to other things they have in DCS?
I think for me, it's just the whole. I mean, I'm so looking forward to the ED clouds. The new cloud system is breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking. And flying down the mountains south of Rio Gallegos, in the snow-capped mountains with the clouds drifting in. I mean, that is just such an experience. It's just absolutely fantastic. You got to experience that, and the visual quality and stuff. Like people look out the left of the cockpit and say, "Wow, what's that?" That's the sort of thing I want people to experience. It is about the finer detail, but it's also about, oh, I'm in a jet. Oh, that looks nice. Oh, I'm in a helicopter. Wow, that looks nice, kind of thing. As opposed to in the early days, what it used to be is, it was mainly for high jets. You fly your jet and then going over the land at 300 knots or whatever. So you didn't really have a lot of time to look at. Oh, look, there's some nice texture used there and stuff like that.
Just somewhere you took off from and landed on.
Pretty much, yeah.
With the whole sort of that production line you've talked about, and obviously you get so many projects going. Would this process you've gone through with the South Atlantic map, would it discourage you from doing another map in the future, or are you keen on branching out as RAZBAM? So instead of doing aircraft, another module, would you think terrain would be something you would continue to develop going on?
Rod and I have already spoke about other maps.
So sorry, I coughed there.
No, we as soon as, I mean, I really enjoy the process. The process. I love art. Anything to do with modeling, texturing, designing, stuff like that. And the project has all of that, and it's just, you're flying along, coming out of MPA or Stanley or Rio or whatever, and you're just looking around. I've created this, and it's kind of that sort of buzz that you get when you can actually do something, and it's, and that I don't think I'll ever stop making the maps, to be fair.
Is it something you're going to bring RAZBAM onto, Ron? So Clarke is going to make them. Are you going to continue to develop them as RAZBAM? Could we see RAZBAM Vietnam in the future, or RAZBAM Afghanistan, or unless Eagle Dynamics do? I think they're in the process of doing it, but is it something we might have?
I'm afraid.
RAZBAM Vietnam with a Huey and an F4, maybe.
I can't comment on that.
You tried, mate. You did.
I won't press anymore. Well, I don't want to keep you guys too long. I mean, thank you very much for answering everything we've had for you. It's been absolutely fantastic. Of course, we've spoke to John and Clarke before. It's great to meet you, Ron. As if you get anything you want to ask before I ask the community question at the end.
I don't think I've got anything I want to ask. There's, probably just got to the privilege of a testing point of view where I haven't been looking at this map for 2 years, and the only thing that keeps coming to mind is, the guys in TDCS, they're constantly asking us what it's like and, asking us loads of questions we just can't answer. But the one thing I have to say is you haven't seen anything like this before. No. It totally blew my mind that it doesn't look like DCS. That's the first thing. Straight away you're like, right, hang on, this does, and it's not, I'm not getting paid to say nice things like this. It just doesn't look like DCS. It looks like something very new. The level of details is nothing like I've ever seen before. It's ridiculous. It's an entirely new environment, and it definitely sets a whole new precedent for what's actually possible in DCS. So
It's a
that's my
benchmark.
thoughts.
It's a
Yeah.
new benchmark for me. And I mean, you're not finished, Clarke. You've said, oh, test this, look at this, look at that, and you've said, look at these areas where you think, oh, they look fantastic, and you've not even finished, and it's already blown our minds.
I mean, if you think, going back to the development process, I mean, probably about a year ago, I decided there's various different types of tech that ED bring out. They brought something out called the splat map technology. It's where you can blend 2K materials in with a RGBA map, essentially.
Yeah.
And so I decided to redo the airfields at Stanley, MPA, Port San Carlos, and Rio Gallegos, and a couple of the other ones that will be included in the map are Rio Grande and, forgive me if I pronounce this wrong, Ushuaia. Ushuaia, yeah, that's it. So they will be in the map, and they will be at the highest level of detail, but it's about the Falklands, essentially, the Falklands area. So that will be the highest fidelity, and we will do the cleanup and all that sort of stuff on the mainland. But the further south you go, it won't look rubbish, but it won't be using that next technology, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because we just haven't got the time. I mean, we could do it, but delay the map by 4 years, kind of thing.
No, don't do that.
Because we can continue improving. ED might bring something out next week that's breathtaking and stuff, and then you've got to go through that whole process again of upgrading all your stuff. So we have to say, right, no, that's it, and we'll work to that standard. Then when we get the map out to the community in early access or whatever is going to be decided, then we can still work on the map and deliver updates, to enhance the visual quality or performance, or whatever.
I mean,
guys, if I can just interject something here as well with reference to performance and stuff, because obviously I look at the forums, I do keep up to speed. A lot of people are worried about, what are you developing this on? Is it a top end? Ron and Clarke, they use my system, which is a lot lower specs than Ron's, a lot lower specs than Clarke, and they were very, very conscious of that benchmark. So what I would say to the community is, don't worry, you're not going to have a supercomputer that's nitrogen cooled to run this map. My machine is the average user's machine of the DCS community. We've done that for a reason.
Yeah.
And that's because you can get the performance you want and it doesn't degrade the final product. So for all the community that may be a bit worried that they're going to need a supercomputer, rest assured, when we test this process, it's done on the average PC specifications. We're not using £3,000-4,000 builds just to run this map.
The people watching, if they've been to the Falklands, they'll know how barren most of it is, and how windy and just windswept the entire islands are. So there's no huge cities to build or anything. It's very much a sort of barren, rocky terrain. But it looks fantastic.
I think that is that's one of the benefits of this area. You've got a town over here, then you've got like 50-60 miles, and you've got another town kind of thing, and then across Rio side, there's you've got the big Rio Grande, you've got Rio Gallegos and all that sort of stuff. But there's a considerable amount of distance with reasonably good terrain between them, that you don't have to have 100,000 objects in. So I think that's one of the benefits of this sort of area of the map that we chose.
It's a beautiful place. If you ever get a chance to go in real life, if you haven't been to the Falklands, go, because it is absolutely stunning. Beautiful. Again, I don't want to keep you guys too long. I mean, the information you've given us is fantastic. Obviously, letting Az and I see the map and fly around in it has been an absolute pleasure. It's been a pleasure to speak to all of you, including yourself, Ron. Is there anything you'd like to say to the DCS community as a whole? And of course, when are you giving us the Strike Eagle? You don't need to answer the last one. I said I wouldn't ask it. I'm going to ask it.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Okay. I oblige. Regarding the F-15 Israel, we'll show something real soon. The fact that we haven't shown anything is because the guy doing it, the 3D work, is, if you think Clarke is tight,
Yeah.
team is 10 times more tight than Clarke. So he doesn't want to show anything until he feels it's correctly right.
Yeah.
So that's the main reason we have not shown anything on the 15E Strike Eagle. Not to mention that there is a lot of hype and expectation around it that we don't want to put out something that people can shred to pieces. So maybe that's actually the main reason we haven't shown anything. Because as you know me, I usually start showing stuff in the early process, but it's me because it's my work. But I respect all the team members of RAZBAM. They own what desires, what they want, what they don't want. So I can go against it. So that's the main reason I haven't shown anything. But while we have a lot of stuff for the F-15 Israel right now, a lot of stuff, but won't be available for public consumption just yet.
So 2 weeks, copied.
You know what?
Oh, it looks like we lost Ron. Never mind, maybe next time, eh? I have to say a huge thank you to Clarke, to John and to Ron for allowing us to do that interview with them. It's absolutely spectacular to see essentially behind the scenes and what goes into developing a module. And of course, being able to give the footage some attention and show it on the channel is, for me, absolutely amazing. Thank you as well to Azza for helping arrange that whole thing. Top bombing my old friend. Anyway, until next time, Tactical Pascale, out!